This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As a 10-day ceasefire has been reached between Israel and Lebanon, major questions remain over what happens next. President Trump announced the deal on Thursday.
It's very exciting because it's 48 years. We're going to be meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, as you know, and the president of Lebanon. And I had a great talk with both of them today. They're going to be having a ceasefire, and that'll include Hizbullah.
Over the past 7 weeks, Israel's killed nearly 2,200 people in Lebanon, including 172 children. Over 1 million Lebanese have been displaced. 40,000 homes have been destroyed or heavily damaged. Just before the ceasefire went into effect, Israeli airstrikes in the city of Tyre killed at least 13 people. Hizbullah is not a party to the ceasefire agreement. While the group says it'll observe the ceasefire, it's opposing the Israeli plan to keep occupying a large swath of southern Lebanon. Some residents of southern Lebanon have returned home to find their neighborhoods have been turned into rubble.
There's destruction and it's unlivable. Unlivable. We're taking our things and leaving again. May God protect these young people. May God grant us relief and end this whole thing permanently, not temporarily, so we can return to our homes and livelihoods. May God protect everyone.
Many in Lebanon have questioned whether Israel will abide by the ceasefire. After a Lebanon ceasefire was reached in November 2024, Israel repeatedly violated it, almost on a daily basis. According to the UN, Israel violated that ceasefire more than 15,000 times, killing at least 370 people. We go now to Beirut, where we're joined by Kareem Chehayeb, a Beirut-based journalist reporting on Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq for the Associated Press. Thanks so much for being with us, Kareem, again. What has been the response to the announcement of the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire?
Well, there's certainly been a collective sigh of relief. This was a very, very intense war. It happened, the escalation happened so rapidly, it didn't sort of stretch out over a 7-8 month period like the last one. People, of course, are very skeptical of how long this temporary ceasefire could last, whether it even, last all 10 days and whether it'll be renewed. People definitely want a long-term solution and they want some level of stability. Lebanon is a country that has gone through so many crises and wars in its short and troubled history. That being said, the main division right now, the main dividing point among the Lebanese is really who is to take credit for this ceasefire. Was it the Lebanese government that held direct talks with the Israelis for the first time since 1993 on Tuesday, or was it Iran, which included Lebanon in its set of conditions in its talks with Washington? Either way, people are, visiting their homes, seeing, assessing the damages. I was just in the southern suburbs earlier. Widespread destruction everywhere there. People are trying to basically see if their houses can be fixed or not. But there's a lot of cautious optimism. But for now, people are at least relieved that there might not be strikes, at least at the same caliber as there was just yesterday.
Can you talk about the large swath of southern Lebanon that Israeli troops continue to occupy up to the Litani River and blowing up the last bridge over the Litani River, the significance of this?
Early on in this war, the Israeli military announced an intention to create what they call a security zone, which stretches from the UN Blue Line, which divides the two countries, all the way to the Litani River, which is almost some 20 miles away from the border. The Israelis were not able to push all the way to that to that de facto border, the Litani River. However, they do control large swaths of southern Lebanon, and it seems there's a huge emphasis on the southeast, near Mount Hermon. This is very close to the Israeli-annexed Golan Heights, which they took from Syria, and of course the Syrian border. It seems on the eve before the ceasefire, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said to expand eastward, and that's what we saw. The Israeli military and Hezbollah militants have been fighting in very strategic hilltop towns that overlook the border, including in Bint Jbeil and Echiyam. And this is a very interesting sticking point because the Israelis said they will not withdraw from what they call the security zone in southern Lebanon. But at the same time, there has been ongoing fighting until the ceasefire went into effect. In Bint Jbeil, for example, the Israeli military has the town largely surrounded, but there are Hezbollah fighters in there. And the question is that, what's going to happen in there going forward. And of course, with this kind of military mobilization and this ground invasion in Lebanon, many in Lebanon do fear this could lead to some sort of long-term or even permanent occupation, similar to that from 1982 until the year 2000. Now, the Lebanese government says that as negotiations continue, that they're hoping to, as soon as possible, get some sort of Israeli withdrawal. But at the moment, this is not part of the 10-day truce, and it is unclear when this will happen.
This is Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu confirming the Israeli government has agreed to this 10-day ceasefire.
In these peace talks, we have two fundamental demands. First, the disarmament of Hezbollah. Second, a sustainable peace agreement, peace through strength. In order to achieve the ceasefire, Hezbollah insisted on two conditions. The first condition was that Israel must withdraw from all Lebanese territory up to the international border. The second condition was a ceasefire based on a quiet-for-quiet arrangement. I did not agree to either of these, and indeed, neither of these conditions is being met.
So that's Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. A Hezbollah official told you the ceasefire was a result of Iran's negotiations with the United States, in which Iran insisted Lebanon be included. Can you talk about the significance of this and what the real value of these diplomatic talks between Israel and Lebanon is, orchestrated by the White House, but not including Hezbollah?
So this is definitely a major sticking point here in Lebanon. So yes, that's right. We did speak with Hezbollah parliamentarian Hassan Fadlallah, who Hezbollah and their supporters credit Iran for their leverage in including Lebanon in their talks with the United States. Now, when Pakistan announced the truce between Iran and the U.S., they did mention that Lebanon and other regional wars that have been a sort of a spillover from this conflict would be included. However, this is something that Israel rejected and proceeded with bombing Lebanon. Lebanon, at the same time, was also horrified by the idea of Iran negotiating on its behalf, and therefore tried to open a diplomatic track of its own. And that's when the talks started to take place. Now, the question is really, what caused the ceasefire? What was the main turning point? Hezbollah says that the Iranians spoke with the United States and informed them at dawn, hours before Trump's announcement. However, the Lebanese say that taking these talks away from, Iran kind of holding on to the Lebanese position, talking to the Israelis helped play a role, as Lebanon had been trying to use diplomacy for a ceasefire since the beginning of the war in early March. It's just that the Americans and the Israelis did not necessarily respond to them favorably from that point. It could be a combination of the two. We don't know that. But what we do know is that there have been efforts to bring about more direct talks between Lebanese and the Israelis. And our understanding is that the Lebanese president, when speaking with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, refused to speak directly to Benjamin Netanyahu, and that appeared to be something that they were trying to sort out before the ceasefire announcement, and he didn't do that, which also indicates that he is trying to find a way to appease his divided support base in Lebanon, many who are not in favor of developing any sort of diplomatic ties with the Israelis or high-level direct talks at this point in time.
Kareem Chehayeb, I want to thank you very much for joining us from Beirut. Kareem is a journalist reporting on Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq for the Associated Press.